Hey, welcome investors to the 40 Finance channel. My name's Jeff Beers. In this video, we're going to take a look at NVIDIA stock through the rest of 2020 and right up to the start of 2021. NVIDIA, I think, is pretty obvious. It's a solid long-term play. If you get in now over the next 5 years, you're probably going to do pretty well with their technological advances. But where are things going to trend over a shorter term in the next 5 months? So if you're looking to get into NVIDIA stock or maybe add to your existing portfolio, then this will interest you. Disclaimer, as always, my stock picks and projections are just my opinion for your entertainment. Talk to a professional before jumping into investing. Now, of course, if you do like stock market investing, going deep on stocks like NVIDIA, then please give this video a like and subscribe. That way you'll be sure to see all my stock analysis. I publish 3 or 4 videos a week, so if you want to keep up to date on what I'm talking about, then definitely subscribe. And as a free bonus, if you join my email list, I've got my 15-minute stock analysis guide that just came out a week or 2 ago. Lots of great hacks in there for noobs and for existing investors. Free resources to help you build a better watch list and do quick research when you see those new ticker names that you want to dig into. All right, let's take a quick look at NVIDIA's core business. What are they selling? What are the categories? And how does the growth look in the future? All right, this is straight out of NVIDIA's most recent earnings report. And you see the 4 categories up top: gaming, data center, professional visualization, and automotive. We'll start at the left. Gaming, 51% of last year's revenue. And the most important metrics there, you could see revenue was $5.5 billion last year, and it has a 3-year growth rate of 11%. So 11% growth rate on 51% of their revenue. Now we go to data center, and this is where things start to get really exciting for NVIDIA. You can see 27% of last year's revenue, but this one has a 3-year compounding annual growth rate of 53%. So really good to see a second category growing quickly for NVIDIA. Then you have visualization, 11% of last year. That's growing at about 13%. And then finally, automotive on the far right, much smaller at $700 million. And current growth rate, 13%, which is decent. I think this category, and I'm sure most of you would agree, is ripe for change over the next, 2 to 3 years as the style of vehicles that people start buying changes. But for now, I would consider this more of a growth play. All right, so those are the core businesses for NVIDIA. Let's take a look at the stock today and start building our forecast for the rest of 2020. Stock before open today was at $573.86. The market is actually opened on the downside here early today, so I think it was around $550 before I pressed the record button. You can see on $573 in the yellow boxes below, I made a couple updates because Yahoo I don't think was accurate in this case. You have an EPS of 690. That makes the PE ratio 83 on a 573 price. That obviously, if the market continues to go down, that will fluctuate a little bit. 52-week range at 166 all the way up to 589. And finally, there is a dividend with NVIDIA, a small one at 0.12%, but definitely interesting to grab a small dividend from a company like this that is growing so fast. Up at the top, you see last 12 months revenue, $13.6 billion. $13.6 billion. This is a monster company. Cash on hand of almost $11 billion. Debt load of $7.7 billion, which is still manageable. They're working through a recent acquisition that actually just went live that gives them some more capabilities on their data center business. And so the debt level is a little higher than normal right now. And I would expect over the next 2 to 3 years, barring more acquisitions, that debt level is actually going to shrink fairly quickly. Okay, so now let's build our price forecast for NVIDIA. And to do this, we're going to use a very simple formula with two variables. If you've watched my other videos, you already know where I'm going here, but let's take a look at the parameters. All right, so you see at the top, the prediction parameters, our formula, price equals PE times EPS. So in this case, we want to get to price. So simple algebra says we need to identify our PE and our EPS to get there. Couple notes at the bottom just to clarify what we're doing. NVIDIA's fiscal year runs February through January. This prediction, this price prediction, would be for the February 2021 earnings call. So roughly 5 months away. And as always, this is subjective data for PE, EPS, economy, all those things. I'm sharing my opinion with you, but you will have the opportunity, I think, very clearly to massage my PE and EPS projections to come up with your own. All right, so the first projection that we have to run is actually the hardest, and that is PE. Because PE is sort of an influential stat in the sense that it could go higher with momentum, it could go higher with projection. It's up to me to just put a pulse on where I think the market will be in February 2021 and factor in where has NVIDIA traded, what PE levels have they traded at prior to that point. So let's jump in. All right, lots of squiggly lines on this one, but I'll skip right to the point. This is a chart of the last several quarters of PE and other valuation measures for NVIDIA. What I want to focus on is, if you look at the top, the green boxes, we sort of have 3 quarters highlighted: pre-COVID quarters and then April of 2020. This is where we're going to focus most of our attention. In 2019, which would be the quarters off to the far right, NVIDIA was actually having a slight down year in 2019, not a negative year, but their performance dipped from a growth standpoint. So I want to focus more in where the green boxes are, where they've got a sort of over that hump, so to speak. And that's where we see these PEs of 64, 60, and 45. You compare that to what's going on now or recently, and that's where the red circle is. July 31st, when that quarter closed, we were at 79. Today we're about 80. We'll probably fall under that if the stock price stands at 550. So bottom line, I'm incorporating the green box to make my PE projection, and you see off to the far right, there's some black text. I personally believe market PEs will come down. Ironically, we're seeing some of it this morning. I think PEs are too hot, and some of those PEs are coming down today. We'll see if it lasts. But I certainly believe they'll come down before February 2021. So my estimate on the bottom line there, PE estimate equals 65. 65, you know, if there's a big dip, that might even be a high number. That really might even be high. I would say that the perfect storm with NVIDIA's growth is if you could get something under 50, which that even sounds crazy to some people, but I think honestly with what this company is and where they play, I would consider anything under 50 relatively fair compared to the competition. All right, so we're going with a PE of 65. Now it's time to dig in and make an EPS projection. All right, if you've watched the videos before, you know I kind of look at this in 2 ways. There's companies that tend to surprise on their earnings and they sort of sandbag. There's others that kind of hit it right on the nose. And of course, there's even the third case, which is, you know, they just bomb it because their business is sinking. In NVIDIA's case, if we look at the blue box, their surprise percentage, plus 13, 6, and 10, that is how much they've gone over the estimate for their EPS. So 2 boxes ahead of that is EPS actual. I didn't highlight it, but you can see they came in at those numbers compared to the estimates at the very top. So bottom line for me, off to the far right, I'm going to say 10%, it's in blue there, 10% is my expected surprise. Now that's only the surprise. So now we got to go to the EPS trends and see, you know, what are analysts thinking? The first green box that's highlighted for all the analysts currently reporting into Yahoo, they're at 906. The arrow that's pointing up there shows you that 90 days ago, that EPS estimate was 809. Now we're at 906. So we've went up about $1 in just 90 days. You factor in the surprise percentage above, and long story short, off to the right in the green text, EPS estimate 1006, I'm basically adding another $1 to the current estimate when I sort of factor in how NVIDIA has surprised in the past and the momentum that we're seeing on EPS estimates right now. All right, so we have the two components of our formula. We've got our PE, we've got our EPS. Let's see how they add up, and then we'll compare that to what some of the professional analysts are saying. All right, top of the board, projected price for February of 2021. We take our 10.06 EPS times 65 PE. That gives us a price of $6.53. That's 13.9% above the stock price I had on the board, whatever that was, 573 or 575. So that would even be higher. If NVIDIA landed at 550, we would be even higher. So that's my official price projection for 2021, given what I know here today in September. If you go down, we can manipulate the numbers a little bit. If we had a lower EPS, so in this case 906, but a higher PE, I put 83, which was, you know, about today's when I was first making this. Then you got a stock price that skyrockets all the way to 751. I don't anticipate PEs going higher than they are today, but of course you do never know. And then finally at the bottom, if we take a higher EPS and a lower PE, we went 11 against 62, you're in that 682 range. All right, so I'm coming in at 653 for the February 2021 earnings call. Let's take a look at how the best performing analysts feel about NVIDIA stock using the TipRanks dashboard. All right, so on TipRanks, the beauty of TipRanks is you can sort by date of when these analysis came in. So on the far right, you see all of these are the past couple days. And then I always sort by best performing, so only 4- and 5-star analysts here. Right in the middle, you've got the green box. You can see pretty much a consensus buy, and then the price target, right? So I'm at 653. Most of these guys are in the 600 range, 550 to 600. We've only got one guy there somewhere in the middle of Merrill Lynch at 650. So most of the pros, so to speak, are shooting for around the $600 level right now. All right, so what's the bottom line on NVIDIA looking ahead in the short term, just to February? Again, I think NVIDIA, if your only goal was to buy now and hold for 5 years plus, then I think you win, right? I think it's an easy win just by the nature of their industry, all the advancements they have coming up, the way that their categories are shifting so that it's not so focused on gaming. Now you're getting into data centers, which, you know, that's never going away. And then you have like the automobile thing, which doesn't do much now, but it likely will in the future. Just a great company. But even in the short term, if we end today at 550 thereabouts, if the stock market doesn't bounce back up, then, you know, if you look at the pro analysts, they're saying $600. If you take my rationale and my math, I'm at 653. Frankly, somewhere between the two also makes sense. I think EPS at 1006 for the fiscal year makes a lot of sense. The hard part is the PE factor. I could easily hit my EPS target, then have the PE, land around 60, and then I'm right there with the pros. So it just depends on how much people want to pay up. I guess my 2 cents at the end of the day is get in NVIDIA somewhere for the next couple years, 2 to 5 years. Like, get in somewhere. I'm a big proponent of the QQQ, and NVIDIA is a top 10 holding in that ETF. I think it's 2.2%. So I always feel good when NVIDIA comes up because I have a decent chunk of money in the QQQ. And finally, since we had some volatility in the market today, if you continue to see volatility or dips, I personally think that if you can get NVIDIA under a PE of $50, the earnings for this company, I think, are pretty rock solid looking ahead. There would have to be a major surprise to miss earnings per share. However, the PE is the X factor, so if you see a PE under 50 for NVIDIA, you might have to think about it. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this forecast for NVIDIA stock heading into the end of fiscal year 2021. Please give me a like and subscribe if you enjoy these kinds of videos. I will see you on the next video.